Hi, I'm Mark Honeybone from Property Ventures, and welcome to our weekly podcast where we interview prominent members of the investment community along with other professionals in the New Zealand property market. This is a free service from Property Ventures so that you can keep current and learn from some of the best around New Zealand. To check us out, take a look at propertyventures.co.nz. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Today we are very excited to be interviewing Nathan Birch from Australia. Now, for some of you who don't know Nathan, he was recently featured in a New Zealand Stuff article as owning 170 properties at the age of just 30, a massive achievement. Now, he grew a whopping 170 property portfolio by beginning with his first purchase at age 18, and he saved every cent he earned by working multiple jobs. So we'll find out how he got his first property and then went through to his first 10, which has now grown to 170 properties. So sit back and enjoy the interview. So let's get straight into the questions today. Welcome to the show, first of all, Nathan.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me on today.
No worries. Right, so through your investing, you use equity as your deposits for properties, obviously. So does this come mainly from renovations or capital growth?
Yeah, I guess a bit of a mixture. So when I first started investing, I was on $40,000 a year, and I had to save every cent I could and try and be as frugal as I could with my investing. And I obviously not being coming from a blue collar family in Western Sydney, what I realised is I didn't want to have to work the rest of my life, just working a job that I wouldn't be happy in. And what I decided is just to do whatever it takes to get myself out of the rat race. And one of those things was I found an opportunity was to create sweat equity. So in the early days, I used to build a lot of sweat equity. I used to have to go and do renos, and I taught myself all different things about, painting, patching, putting in kitchens, bathrooms, putting in new windows, pulling apart termites and all that sort of stuff. And it was a bit of a learning exercise. If I was to go back and do it again today, I wouldn't be so actively on the renovation side of things and the tools. I rarely do a renovation on my properties nowadays, just because it's I feel that slows you down a little bit from doing renos. But certainly in the early days, I did do a lot of sweat equity by buying properties that needed a bit of work and adding some equity from doing renovations. But for me, I've got three sort of key points when buying properties, and one of them is to buy a property below market value, and that certainly ensures that you make an equity from day one. So what I mean by that is, if I'm buying a property that there's three houses around or three units around that are identical and they're selling for say $250, and I pick up something for $200, I know that I'm picking up $50K below market value, and that can come from agents getting it wrong. That can come from someone desperately needing to get out. That can come from a bank repo sale, or buying in bulk, multiple different ways. But it's sort of shifted over the years from being having to do the sweat equity to being a bit more smarter about how I do things.
Yeah, I remember the first reno I ever did. Sort of ripping in there on the weekends and getting into it, where I'm not the most handiest guy with a hammer in my hand, so it's better getting other people to do it. But as you said, in the number one, where you make most money from is when you buy, and if you can buy well. I know it's been in Auckland, it's been a particularly hard market to buy well the last 8 months, because it's just the market's been so hot. Do you have any tips of in a really hot market of buying under value, or it's just searching and waiting?
Yeah, I think in a hot market, the biggest thing is being serious and being in a position where you can take action immediately. So, I think it's important to have a good team around you, so that all your finances are in order from your broker or your bank, that you're ready as soon as you find that property that fits the bill, so you can go in and sign a contract and take the property off the market and be able to do your due diligence, be it pest and building inspections and finance and all that sort of stuff. What was important, like when I first started investing, I used to spend like 8 hours a day just researching markets, understanding markets, and spend a lot of time, teaching myself on the market and what's happening out there. So nowadays, when I see something, I know, this is awesome value. jump on it, make it happen. No further work needs to be done because you can see the inconsistencies in the market. So I'm thinking, study the market, be on top of the market, knowing what's happening out there. And if you see something that's out of line, do due diligence. Make sure you're not just buying in a rough area of town or anything like that. Make sure that you're buying something that's on par with comparables. If you see the glitch in opportunity, what I mean by that is that something that appears very cheap or something that the agent says, look, here's an opportunity. What do you want to do with it? Just take action on it if you know it's the right thing. What I find in moving markets is in Australia we've got lots of different states and lots of different markets, and they don't all go up and down at the same time. But what I find is when a market goes up, not everyone catches on. The psyche of the agents doesn't catch on at the same pace. So an agent might just refer back to the last one that they sold, which they go, I sold one for $250. It might have gone up 10 grand. It's probably worth 260. That's what we'll sell it for. The reality of it is if you know that another agent has sold something down the road for 300 comparable to it, you're picking up equity on the way in. So it's important for you as a property investor to be active and understand the market at all times.
Absolutely, and then that's particularly in like Auckland's grown so much this year, and as you said, knowing your market is so important. And this year, if you were out of the market for 3 weeks, you lost where the market was. It was moving so quickly, and as second point, as you said, be prepared. You're ready to move quickly, so that's great. Hey, Nathan. So when many people hear they'll hear you said about your first property, you brought well, you got in there and did it yourself and added some value to it, and you get through to sort of 10 properties, and that seems to be 3 seems to be the first hurdle, and then 10 seems to be the second hurdle for a lot of people. How did you find getting past that sort of 8 to 12 properties, and was it difficult, or what was your story?
Oh, it was very difficult. So for me, I needed to come up with the deposits. Obviously, I was 18 years old when I first started buying properties, and I went out and worked 2 full-time jobs just to save up the deposit. Initially, I didn't tap into the equity. It was only a little bit later that I realised that if I wanted to really push on, I'd need to, get more capital quickly.
Yep.
So my first, 3 or 4 properties, I never really touched the equity. I just put down, as small as deposit as possible, and move on to the next one. But I realised that I had a net worth position that was growing, but I wanted to tap into that. That's when I went to equity. But a lot of people, I said before, and I've got 3 tips. The first one is to make sure that it's, below market value. You want to make sure that you've also got upside for capital growth, and you're not just buying somewhere that's never going to go up. You want to make sure there's infrastructure, like CBD boundaries and that. But the third one is that you want to make sure that you've got a strong cash flow, because I see a lot of people out there, they'll buy a property but they go, I hope it's going to go up one day and maybe I can do this and hopefully it'll, there's too many hopefully, maybe, and one day's emotional decisions. I treat my investing like a business, and I want each property that I acquire to push me into the next one and the next one and the next one. And whilst, nowadays I look and I don't know what my next one is because I do lots of different stuff. I still buy the small stock, and I buy crazy stock like shopping centres or hotels and stuff nowadays. But what I always look at is how is this property going to push me towards my next one? And a lot of people just go out there willy-nilly without a plan of attack. They might buy 3 or 4 properties. They go, oh, now I can't service with the banks or whatever the case may be. You need to understand lending. You need to understand, learn, teach yourself. How's this property going to get into the next one? Because someone might have 200 grand in capital to start off with. They go buy 4 properties, but if they're all positive cash flow by $20 per week, but not giving them any equity, well, then how are they going to get the subsequent 4 after that or 5 after that and keep progressing? So you need to understand where you are today, where you're going, and then each part of the jigsaw puzzle, or each property needs to be a part of the road that you're travelling down to put you in the direction of where you need to be it equity, cash flow, understand the deals that you need, keep pushing forward.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And then just some things I've seen sort of this year, and I've seen I spoke about this yesterday on another podcast, to be fair, but interesting to sort of hear your call. And some people get a bit hung up on having to get that cash flow and capital gains on the same property. A way I see it, if you have an end goal to have, like you just spoke about, really, we have both. They don't necessarily have to be exactly the same on the same property, because you're not always going to get that, especially in a hot market, I guess. What's your call on that?
Yeah, exactly. Like for me, I want to make sure the properties are going to be fairly neutral cash flow. So if the properties are, going to be costing you $200 a week, negative cash flow, that ain't really that great. If the property is going to be $200 a week negative, you'd want to see 100, 200 grand in equity there, so you can redeploy it into the next few deals to, add some stuff that's going to be more positive cash flow and cover the shortfall. You can get both. What I like to do by buying properties that are in good CBD locations, what I find is that the rents will go up in value as well. So it might be neutral cash flow the day you buy 10 of them, and they're all neutral, but they've got a lot of growth, so they might go from 200,000 to 400,000. So you've turned $2 million into $4 million. But what you will find in the future is those neutral cash flow properties will go up. So if they go up $20 this year, $20 next year, $20 the year after, and so forth, in 5 years' time, it'll be $100 a week positive cash flow. If you have 10 of them, there's $1,000 a week. And a lot of the time, people get caught up. There's been stages in my portfolio where I've gone and bought properties in certain locations, and I've bought other properties in other locations just for a cash flow. But if you don't watch out and just focus purely on the cash flow, you might be creating yourself more a headache than good, because admin costs and stuff like that. Like it just it's your life.
No, that's great. But you say obviously you got 10 properties. As I said, you realise the recycling of the deposit become pretty important, and so that's how you sort of push past that 10 properties. Once you got into, there's a big difference from 10 to 170 properties. Did you find it easier to build after you had built up to a certain number, or was there a certain number where it became easier?
I think once it got past 50, 60, it became a bit easier, but it's still, I guess it never gets easier. When you go for a loan and you've got 170 properties, you've got to explain yourself to the banks like a business. You've got to sit there and be like, okay, you have to go, and then, whilst your asset position's good and your cash flow position's good and all that sort of stuff, you need to go and justify it to the lender. So you need to go and constantly, every time you go to buy a property, go and update, 170 rental statements, 170 loan accounts, whatever, to give to the bank and say, look, here's all the updated information. So it's more of an admin task nowadays than anything, and that's where you sit in a position and you go, is this deal going to provide, this? I know these are the hurdles that I have to overcome. So I don't think the hurdles ever disappear. They just change and evolve. It's something that as time has gone on, I think the hurdles are less, but they're still,
it becomes different hurdles, I guess, as you get more and more. Yeah. So a lot of people were obviously, especially more older people, were very apprehensive of debt, or any age really. So obviously you haven't got an issue with that, and you've got your own way you deal with that. But have you been able to make or change other people's minds on debt?
Yeah, constantly. Because if you look at any successful business out there, like large corporation or economy or country even, all countries have a level of debt attached to them. So what my mindset was at the start, like, you come from a family, your parents say, don't get yourself into debt, go get yourself a good job, etc., etc. But, what I realised is debt becomes irrelevant with inflation. So if you can pick up something today's dollars with debt attached to it, in the future, paying it down with future dollars, the debt is not what it seems at the start. So, for example, my parents, blue collar work and all that sort of stuff. My mum's in her mid-70s. Looking back, when they bought their house in prominent area of Sydney, it was like $13,000 for them to buy the house, and it took them 20 years to pay it off. I look at the house now, it would be worth $1 million, and the stamp duty from the government would be like $25,000 of stamp duty. The reality of it is if they had bought 10 of them, never paid off a cent, and they owed $13,000 on each one of them, 6 months' worth of rent would pay out the debt today. So the debt really gets deflated and washed out over time with inflation involved. So a lot of people, get scared of debt. I was against it. Like my first property, I was trying to pay it down, but paying it down, I could be using that money as my next deposit. So I clicked to a point where very quickly I go, I need to use that as my next deposit. And I look back now, and my debt is probably around the $12-13 million mark. My property portfolio, I just assessed it the other day, and it's around $37 million as a portfolio. So am I concerned about having $12 million worth of debt? Not really. I don't mind if I had another $20 million worth of debt, as long as I've got another $50 million worth of assets, sort of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to describe it. Debt relevant to inflation, and as a young'un to learn quickly the difference between bad debt and good debt, because a lot of people as 18, 19-year-olds weren't around buying properties. They were buying the biggest flash as TVs and cars, I bet. So.
Yeah, it's only been the last couple of years that I've gone, there comes a point where you've got to enjoy what you work hard for, and I think it's delayed gratification. And I was recently chatting to a friend of mine's nephew, and he was like, he's 18, and he said, I want to do what you've done. And I said, well, this is what I did. And he said, I can't sacrifice selling my car. I remember when I rocked up to an auction for a property and I had a brand new car, and I thought to myself, crap, how am I going to pay for this property to settle it? So I sold my brand new car, settled the property, and then I was driving around a $500 ute. And I told this guy this, and he turned around and he said, I can't do that. I said, mate, if you're not willing to sacrifice some stuff, you won't be successful, because people say they want things in life, but they don't commit to actually taking action and do whatever it takes sometimes to get there.
Absolutely, you have to make that decision and do it, and whatever it takes. Great stuff. So did you get to a point when you were building your portfolio that you exhausted your main lenders and you had to go elsewhere to get money? And I mean, the most ones people over here were thinking of are your second-tier lenders, or when was it when you went to multiple banks, or what's worked for you?
Yeah, for me, when I first started, I thought if I could get 10 properties between the age of 18 and 30, and they go from 200 grand, 400 grand, I'd be in a good position when I'm 30. And I didn't believe that I could, go off and do that, but I pushed myself to do it. When I got to about 5 properties, I got capped to max out at one bank, and I was like, is this all it is? Like, is this all I can do? I'm doing so great now. I didn't think I could do anything. I've gone and got myself 2 jobs. I'm earning decent income. How can I move forward? And I spoke to a broker, and the broker said, well, the bank's kept you out. The bank said to me, you've got to wait 12 months. I waited 6, 8 months. I said, how long do I have to wait now? And they go, you've got to wait another 12 months. I was like, this is annoying. And not being happy, like I'm never happy with my position. Like you asked me today, am I happy with my position? No, I can do more. But at that point, I said, I can do more with this. I want to find out how I can do it. You can look at it as a roadblock or a building block. And, there are blocks in the road, but what can you build out of it? And I looked at it and go, okay, I'm going to go and ask the people. There's like 350 lenders or something in this country. I'm dealing with one of them. So I got a good broker, which I still use today. And they said, we can get a loan with another bank. I was like, okay, if I can, that's fine. They're great. And I bought a couple of properties with that bank. And then I fell in the same problem. And then I was like, okay, what do I do now? And it has been a constant issue. And even to this day, financing, if it wasn't for finance being, I wouldn't say difficult, but just being, painful as you build the portfolio, there's a lot of admin stuff that comes to it. I would be sitting there with a larger portfolio if it wasn't for finance. Finance would be 50% of successful portfolio and the strategy of finance. And I think I've overcome the hurdles along the way by making sure that I have properties which are that takes me back to the 3 points. Like making sure it's below market value. If it's below market value, you've got equity in from day one. You can take the equity out and use it on the next one.
Yep.
Making sure it's got growth. You're buying the property because you want it to go up and double, triple, quadruple in value. Having a good cash flow will mean that the property has its own heart, lungs, and respiratory system, and it's looking after itself, and it's not taken away from your serviceability. So those things are crucial.
Yeah, and a good broker is just worth your weight in gold. I mean, some people don't realise the banks. Every branch of a bank might have so much money they can give out in a certain time, and you don't know that. The bank knows that, but the broker's a person that will get you to the right bank and to fit your portfolio if they're a decent sort of broker. So brokers are, I suppose, as you said, has been instrumental in your success, and they are for anyone's success with property.
Exactly. You need to, you go into a battle, you need to know your enemy. And,
absolutely.
You can't just go into a bank and go, okay, this is how it's going to work. You need to understand, how the bank will work. And that comes just down to asking your broker questions or your bank questions. You might hit a $2 million serviceability at a bank, but then you're buying under your personal name. You could be buying under a trust, and they might have $2 million sitting over there that they could lend you in the commercial section. And it's just a matter of teaching yourself and asking the questions along the way. The more questions you can ask at the start, the better. But don't get too bogged down. Those paralysis, yeah.
And just carrying on for the bank theme there, Nathan, is a lot of banks want to cross secure your properties. Have you been able to single secure most of them, or how do you just work with a revolving credit, or how have you built up what really got you accelerated?
I won't let them cross collateralise. Some banks will, really push for that. At the end of the day, the crossing of your properties is in the bank's interest and not in your interest. It makes it a lot harder to move away from the bank. Makes it a lot harder to leverage yourself into your next deal and build that portfolio. In the early days of my first bank, that was painful. They crossed all my properties together, which was really annoying, and I never let it happen again. I think there might have been one or two circumstances along the way where I've just gone, I can't buy like 10 properties at once. You can cross 2 or 3 of them together just because it makes things a little bit easier. And I don't have any intention on revaluing or anything like that, but I'd prefer to keep them standalone.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what everyone's goal should be to try to get to. So owning 170 properties is pretty good, Nathan, and a lot of people will be awestruck with that at an age of 30. So how do you manage all these properties on a daily basis? Obviously, you don't do it yourself anymore.
I don't want anything to do with it. So there's a few things that I ensure. Like if you take your investing and treat it like a business, you take Macca's for example. McDonald's sell a burger. It may not be the best tasting burger in the world. However, they've got a fantastic system that makes them profitable, and that's because they've got set systems and procedures in their business. In my investing, I believe my greatest dollar value to earn for myself is to go and make my next deal happen, which will improve my net worth and my cash flow position. So I could be missing out on a deal while I'm opening up my mail. I don't want to be paying my bills. If you think 170 properties, you've got to pay every quarter the council rates, the water rates, the strata, insurances, whatever. If it takes 1 minute to pay a bill, the bill on 170, that'll take 3-4 hours to go and pay. Say 3 hours to pay one set of bills. It takes 1 minute without having a break each bill. If you've got council rates, water rates, strata, there's 3. That's like a whole day of just paying bills. What I make sure is that I systemise things. So I've got property managers that manage all my properties, and I make it the property manager's job to actually pay the council rates, the water rates, the strata, all that sort of stuff. So those bills don't come to me. All I get at the end of the month is a statement with everything that's been paid on it, and I just fold it away. With my mail that comes in personally, I've got a system where it gets brought in the office. My staff open it up, file it away, and enter it into the system. I realise that accounting for my property investing was a painful thing. So I set up co-founded and built a program which automates everything, so I don't even have to worry about paperwork. So that's called My Property Tracker. It's an online, web-based, cloud-based software using the same sort of software that banks use and MYOB and Xero use to pull all your data. So when it comes to tax time, you don't have to worry about the paperwork. It takes all the hassles out of that.
Right.
So
that's not the same one as Property Investor uses it, or is that your own?
No.
Again, I know they've got something similar, I believe.
No, this is something totally different. It's like Xero, but for property investors.
Yeah.
It's all cloud based.
Nice.
And we just added an option where you can actually don't have to enter in. All you have to do is take photos of your bills, and our team actually put your bills online. So they actually enter in all the data for you, so they don't have to touch the bill.
Great.
It's just totally automated. Yeah, totally different.
Yeah, when you get to that level, I mean, any business you're into, when you get to some level, you have to get the systems in place so it can run smoothly. And it sounds like you've got a great process there. Well, what sort of level did you get to when you decided, hey, I can't look after my own properties, I can't renovate my own properties, and I need a team to help me? And obviously you're at that stage giving up your full-time job. What sort of level was that at?
The point where I quit my full-time job is when I realised that I was doing myself a disservice by working in my job and I could be earning more money doing other things. When I came to, that realisation is there was no confetti falling out of the ceiling. It was just like, okay, I've got too much happening now. I'm going to get rid of my job. I'm going to go and play around with properties because my life will be a lot better and, I can make more money doing that. Then I got to a point where I was like, well, these renos, I can be focusing on things that are less hard work, less stress. I don't want to do with tradies. I don't want to do. So it was a gradual progression. Like I was doing work myself, and I was like, I'll outsource this work. And I was like, this is all too hard. I believe that I can buy properties that are just below market value and not have to do the reno on them. I'd rather do that because then you can fit more into your schedule and more into your purchasing power and all that sort of stuff. So it's been gradual progressions of refining the systems. I think of myself as my mother always says to me in the mid-70s, she goes, Nathan, the older you get, the stupider you're getting. And I think I could just try and let my mind go free. But every 3 months I look at my growth, whether it be in any of my businesses in my group of companies, or whether it be, my personal investing or my mindset. Every 3 months I'm like a child where I grow and change what I was doing the last 3 months. So it's pushing forward and reviewing and, taking action in a different way.
Yeah, I remember interviewing Kevin Green from Wales, and he's got 600 properties, I think it is, and he was saying he reviews or accounts. He's got quite a few businesses. He reviews them every day, and he does the same thing and reviews. And always, whether it's every month or whatever, seeing where one part of the business is not going right and seeing how you can actually work on it. So working on the business is far more important than doing a bit of painting for today.
You leverage money or the bank's money into a property. You've got to sometimes, a lot of the time, leverage your skill set and leverage other people's skill set. I believe that having a strong team around you is really important, whether it be your solicitor, your accountant, whether it be your broker, whether it be your advisors, whoever it be. It's important to have the people around you that will, take care of you and put you in the right position.
Absolutely. Okay, just right. There's a few investors obviously listening to this, and they some struggle to get a good deal. So, what's some tips that you use for finding great deals? And do you do the regular sort of what people just look for, or do you do or think outside the square, so to speak?
Yeah, I used to spend about 8 hours a day looking on the internet, contacting agents, buying properties, all that sort of stuff. It got to a point where I couldn't buy every property. I started helping other people from that perspective. And then what I realised is that basically there's no real estate agents out there. Like I'll talk about my own property investing, my own personal portfolio here today. But buying collectively for other people and stuff, what I realised is that these agents don't have anyone come in and buy such large amounts and large volume of property. So the real estate agents love dealing with me. So as soon as something comes to the market, they'll let me know if it fits my criteria. Nathan, I've got this, do you want to buy it? So occasionally, an agent can get caught up in their day-to-day life, they can have a child or whatever, and, miscontacting you for a month or whatever, and they could have a deal that comes up that just goes out to the market. I'm constantly ensuring that I build that relationship with the agent. So agents will spam you on a weekly basis. Here's an open home, let's go to this, whatever. I capture their email addresses and I write to them saying, hey, I'm really under the pump wanting to buy some property. What have you got at the moment? So I'm in their face getting them to think about what they need to get from me so they can make some deals happen and make some money for themselves. So understanding how a real estate agent works is very important. Understanding what it would take for you to get the deal over the next buyer is important. And the psychology of how the agents work. So I realise that I've got, the contacts there, and I try and maximise that the most so I can get the most amount of deals that I can that are, awesome. So.
Yeah, well, that's so crucial. It's saying understanding agents, and sometimes you do have to get in the face of agents. Some people, think they've taught the agent, or they've actually got a good rapport with the agent, which is obviously most important. But actually, just reminding them sometimes is very good. And I'm on the other side as the agent now, and someone might just talk to me today. 2 minutes later, a deal turns up. Who's instantly on my mind? It's either that person I've just talked to, or someone who I know will buy something at the drop of the hat if it suits their criteria. So you're dead right what you said.
Yeah. It's working for me, mate. So,
absolutely. And I'm not sure what you've heard about over here recently, but in Reserve Bank's implemented some new LVR rules in Auckland for investors, where you have to come up with 30% deposit, and that's actually happening right as we speak, or it's just come in, and so the jury's out, I guess, for the next 3 or 4 weeks on where the market sort of goes. I think there is some slowing down of it, at least for a brief time. I don't think it will stay too long, but I think it will for a short time. So how would you operate in that sort of market now, where you have to have 30% deposit? I mean, probably not your scenario, because your scenario is different than most listeners. But what would you try to do maybe to get around that?
It's interesting that you point that out, so Mark. I wasn't aware of that happening over there, but something similar has just happened in Australia. And what I'm finding is that we've got the governing body of all the banks and that called APRA that has come in and put all these regulations into the banks, which make it a lot harder for investors. They haven't gone down to 30%, but they've got rid of lenders' mortgage insurance for investment properties. There's a lot of change. Each bank's policy is different. So I don't know if every bank in New Zealand is at a position where you have to put down 30% or not.
Yeah, well, as such, they are, and all the main trading banks have actually clicked over to that already. I know there are non-bank lending that aren't doing that. And it's just for investors. That's the thing it's for. So it is a bit more of a challenge, but some mortgage brokers, again, being your friend, seem to get around work for you, the investor.
Yeah. I think it's like if I was in that position today, I'd just be refining everything that I do. You just have to work a bit harder to find that deal that's going to be giving you equity quicker, so you can pull out your equity and go again. Being proactive. A lot of people I see out there, they get stuck in the market and they get, it's all too hard, or whatever the case may be, not do anything for 5 years, come back and say, I should have done this, I should have done that, or it's too late. It's opportunities are always around us.
Yep,
it's a matter of working within the matrix. I always revert back to the Matrix movie. It's the system that's around us. We can't escape it. You can, but it's not going to be too pretty on the outside.
Yep. So
working inside the matrix, but being the best that you can. Like I wish I could sit here and say I've got 170 Lamborghinis outside and 5,000 houses, but it's not. It's not the case. Like you've got to push forward and push forward and push forward, and if there's an opportunity to be had, find a way to make it happen. be a little bit more creative. If people in Australia keep asking me, like, how do you borrow some equity of a parent or a sibling or whatever the case may be, I'm not. I think in my whole portfolio, I've got 2 properties that I own, which were mainly just the giggles that we bought at the time.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to, we felt bad for each other, like close friends of mine, where it's like, I want to buy this property, I want to buy this property, so I go, we'll just go half in it for fun of it. I see a lot of people go out there and try and do stuff with friends or family or whatever. Your goals might be the same today, but in the future, they may be totally different. One of you might be wanting to have children, one of you might be wanting to travel, one of you want to sell, one of you want to keep. Except try and keep everything separate. But, just be a bit more creative and think about, okay, how am I going to get in my next deal? Do I have to go out there and give some sweat equity? Do I have to go and find 10 properties that need to sell very quickly, collectively get 9 of my friends or 8 of my friends or 7 of my friends or 5 of my friends and go in and buy these properties to get them so cheap that there's more equity in them from day one? Those sort of, just being more creative and thinking outside the box.
Yeah, no, good on you. And yeah, well, there's all this way, and every opportunity, there's opportunities behind every challenge that comes up, and yeah, just do it a little bit different. And this one at the moment is just inside in Auckland, so people were going to the nearest cities from Auckland at the moment, and Hamilton and Tauranga and Wellington are starting to become very popular. So there's other ways to do things also.
Good point you make there as well. Like in Australia, what we're finding is that the steam's being trying to be taken away from the market with all these lending changes, which over here is mainly towards serviceability of the debt, not towards the deposit that you have to put down. And what I'm expecting to see, what I'm starting to see, is the regional areas that are outside areas which have got better rent returns. They're going to have a bit of a run in the market, because whilst you may not be able to afford in one place, it'll boost up these other places that are more affordable going out. So the outer rings of Auckland will obviously benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Great. Okay, that's great on property. Hey, thanks so much for that. To tell us just a couple of things about yourself. I see you've got a website, Be Invested. What's that about? How long and what services do you offer with that?
Yeah, so basically, from my side of things, when I was 24, I quit my job. I was bored. I had not much to do. I had a lot of spare time on my hands, so I got out a video camera and I thought, I want to educate people and make videos. So I made some videos, put them on YouTube, asking people what their thoughts were on the videos that I was making and the content. And people would start asking me, Nathan, how do you buy a property so cheap? How do you locate? How can you build a portfolio like we've discussed today? And out of need sort of thing of people wanting help, I do it for fun. I sit around in t-shirt, jeans and thongs. That's how I dress, and every day when I say thongs, I mean jandals over there, not, just to clarify that, my footwear. But I guess I'm in a position where I live life on my terms, but I still work to keep myself, amused, and I get enjoyment and fulfillment from helping other people. So the Be Invested group of companies started off from educating investors to get started and get action happening in property investing, and helping them from not taking the bullet, from doing the wrong decision. And it's grown from finding inconsistencies in the market and things that we can improve upon. So I've got an investment firm where I help property investors build their property portfolio by buying the property. So the buyer's agency helps people locate and negotiate properties. I've got a finance company called Sigma Finance where we help people. I believe we're the best brokers in the country, and there's finance strategists to help our investors structure their finances when building their property portfolio. I've got a real estate agency firm called Blink Property with offices all throughout New South Wales and Queensland. All up, I can go on all day, but all up, I think we employ about 60 staff at the moment. And, we just help investors. We're very pro-investor and helping investors achieve sort of stuff that you could think of, but not understand how to make happen. And I guess we're the glue that helps people build their portfolio on. So.
Yeah, no, well done. That's got to be congratulated for what you've achieved. So that's awesome. So just moving forward, then you've got your goals. Obviously, when you started your business, and you obviously have goals over the years. What's helped you to keep your goals on track, and you're obviously reviewing them regularly from what's going on ahead.
Yeah, with my goals, it's something that every year at the start of the year I look back on the year that I had and the year that's ahead of me, what I can achieve. I set some big goals for 10 years down the track. For me, this year's been an ironic year because I didn't put goals past 30 when I first started. I've just been pushing myself forward. So I sat down and made some goals for the next 10 years. And my goal when I first started was very low when I look back. And I thought it was unachievable to achieve my goal. I look back and I've added just extra zeros on the end of everything that I've done. Looking forward in the future, being able to leave a legacy, I think is important. From a goals perspective, being able to reach out and help, be an active source of helping, like over 10,000 hands-on, helping out over 10,000 investors. Actually create $1 million worth of net worth from a business perspective. That's something that we want to set out to achieve. Bigger than that, my portfolio, I don't know exactly where I want it to be because, I just look at it, I just keep adding more and more. I assume that at some point I'll probably reach the 1,000 property portfolio mark just for the fun of it. And obviously be able to enjoy the hard work. I believe that, I've sacrificed the youth years of my life working 20-hour days and doing whatever it takes to get to where I am today. There has to be a point of being able to go out and enjoy it. And I'm not married yet. I don't have a wife or a woman like that in my life, but I plan on one day, getting married and having children and being able to, spend time with them and just do the normal things in life. So.
Geez, you might have a few Kiwi girls ringing up now after listening to this podcast, mate.
All the right reasons, mate.
Yeah. Oh, it's always the right reasons from Kiwi girls. So that's great. So your life, now you hang around in your jandals, your shorts and t-shirt, and obviously looking after your businesses. And you've given a bit of a clue for 10-year point. So moving on 10 years, you're all of a sudden a 40-year-old, which is a good age to be, mate. Where do you see Nathan Birch then?
And I see a lot of stuff from a business perspective. Like I've just started, over the last 5 years, like business life, and it's something that it wasn't an avenue that I wanted to go down necessarily because I believe I'm a property investor, but I've always implemented business principles to my investing. And I see a lot of people out there, like I've helped a lot of people from property investing. I see a lot of people from a business perspective need help as well. And I see that, just being able to reach out to more people from a commercial angle and from a property portfolio angle, 1,000 properties would be a goal that I'd be chasing. $100 million as a passive income goal would be something that I would be chasing as well. That is 100 million every year passive, and over a $1 billion net worth would be nice. So that's from a commercial angle or a numbers perspective. Yep. But I think, there's no difference between having $100 million or $1 million in income coming in, because what are you going to do with it? And I think as of when I first started out, a lot of things were revolved around money and stuff like that. But as a young age and quickly, I realised I don't want to do things for money. Why am I doing this for money? But the money or the jobs or the properties that I was investing, whatever, were a means to an end. But moving forward, once you can remove financial sort of reasons out of anything, like I don't do anything for money. No one can buy me. If someone said, here's $1 billion a year to come and work and do this, I'd be like, no, it's not in line with who I am or what I want to do. And it's really, that's the most emancipating thing, being free, is being able to do things on your own terms and enjoying life. And, I think the next 10 years will be a mixture of still working hard, going out there and enjoying. I'm probably the only guy in Jandals that drives around a brand new Bentley that's 30 and looks like, I don't know, just a young guy. People probably think I'm a drug dealer or something, but it's definitely from the outside. But it's I think a lot of enjoyment from the hard work, but not being silly, of course. But and giving back, because I think as time has gone on, I've become more humble and spiritual. Not in a religious sense, but just spiritual in a holistic approach in life.
Yeah, no, but that's fantastic, and you sound like a very responsible 30-year-old. Obviously, never met you or anything, but and some people hear that thing of 100 million passive income a year, but as you set goals and you start getting successful, and you reach some goals earlier than you think you will, I know all of a sudden you go, geez, actually that wasn't that hard after all, and it doesn't seem like much of a goal anymore. So I think the more you go, and you've obviously experienced this in a very big level, you just want to achieve more, and what other people think is too hard to get is just the norm. So and obviously and that's great.
It's going back and reverting back to the Matrix, mate. At the start of the Matrix, people thought it was, you had to jump up and try and, miss a bullet or whatever. But by the end of it, Neo, the guy in the Matrix, jumps inside the guy and stops the bullets and drops bullets and stuff like that. And it's all a mindset, because at the start, it's something you don't believe is possible. But as you're actually trying to do something, you see the way along the way.
Mindset is just so important. So I'll go keep grounded over the next 10 years, and you'll be doing well. So just to finish off, is you've given some great tips and for people. What's your advice for a new investor starting out, looking for their first property right now, and listening to you with 170 properties?
Make sure that you're buying in line with your goals. A lot of people add their emotion into it. First thing, if I was to say the top 5 things, first thing, have a plan. Work out exactly where you want to be in 10 years. A lot of what I do is around mindset and goals. So understanding in 10 years, this is what I'm buying the property for. Like, not just buying it and hoping and anticipating that it's going to do something. Buying with a purpose, and not letting your emotions overtake and overrule, your logical decision, because investing is a business decision. When you're investing in a property, you need to take logical actions. Emotion will get you killed. I think that's something ultimately important. So have a goal and have a plan. That'll be number 1. Remove the emotions will be number 2. And the 3 points I said beforehand: buy below market value, upside for growth, and a good strong cash flow.
Excellent. Hey, that's awesome stuff there, Nathan. And we have Property Ventures and everyone listening here, really appreciate your time today. I wish you all the success in the upcoming years, and we hope to see you over here sometime in summer with your jandals. You wouldn't want to be here at the moment.
I wear jandals 365 days a year, mate. So it's I'll be fine. I've even taken them to the snow before.
Okay, going to say go down to Queenstown in June. Very good. Hey,
mate, if I do get over there at some point, I will be making sure we catch up. And I appreciate having me on the show.
Okay, thanks very much. Well, that was sensational. I'd like to thank Nathan for his time today to do the podcast. Obviously very inspiring to anyone trying to turn property investing into a business, and he spoke about that quite a bit, about treating it like a business, and a lot of people on the show have said that. He's clearly passionate about helping others invest, and he's a very humble young guy. We hope you've learned a lot from today's podcast, and I feel inspired to take action after that. You're never too young or old to start investing, and having a great team of professionals is so important. If you're looking for help, please contact us at www.propertyventures.co.nz and sign up today for our newsletter to see brand new listings every week before they hit the market. So thanks again for listening, and just what's coming up in the next few weeks, we're doing a series of 3 or 4 weeks on mentors, and this today was a bit of an introduction, I suppose, even though it was a young Australian guy that does mentoring over there, about what he succeeded So we're going to talk to a few prominent mentors in the next 3 weeks. I'm sure you'll get a lot out of it. So have a great week, and we'll catch up again in 7 days' time.